I totally understand the need for a powerful third-party movement. I understand the frustration with Democrats always using every problem we come up with for an excuse to grow the government bigger so they can increase their voting base through enlarged government unions. Then there's the frustration with Republicans not stopping them while even joining in the big government spending sprees their constituents elected them to get put an end to. I also understand the frustration that would-be liberals feel with Democrats supporting the molesting of our economy by big banks who give elected Democrats as much or more money than they do Republicans, then ignore the wishes of the people that voted for them. I think everyone is about as fed up as they can possibly be with a handful of lobbyists with extremely deep pockets being more important to both parties than the voting public who sent them to Washington in the first place. I get how most Americans have reached a point of being more moderate when it comes to the ideologies they favor, where it's the issues themselves that concern them the most in these tough times. We're living in extreme times that demand extreme measures where the best ones don't have to conform to either ideology, but more reality. For me, ideologies are a luxury. Therefore, times when we've gotten so good at what we do that we then give ourselves a public relations makeover where what and how we produce our quality of life takes new meaning beyond the common sense material aspects that success brings with it. But that's not how society works. When things are going well, we don't like to risk upsetting it by changing anything. So ideologies come first. Then we see if it works to allow us to build a quality of life that we're satisfied enough with to not change it. I, however, believe that these tough times call for an approach that puts quality of life first and battle out how we want to be perceived for our efforts later. Politicizing our survival seems fruitless right now. It's as if we're more worried what the man in the moon or the stars in the sky will think of us if we don't have a good philosophy to support how and why we do things, as if simply doing them right is not good enough. It's as if we're worried more about how our neighbors think about how we take care of our family than how we take care of our family. It's like we've trained ourselves to step back from everything we do to envision what it would look like to others to decide which way to proceed. Or not proceed at all if we don't like how what we need to do will look before we have done it when we have no idea what it will really turn out to look like. Some of us want to be seen as humble and loving, caring and giving, while others want to be seen as strong and stern, even mean and defensive. So we choose sides over political issues based on how we see ourselves as it relates to that issue, thinking everyone else should see it the same way because it's the right way. Otherwise, we wouldn't have chosen to follow it. With every problem we face comes a handful of solutions, some that are more passive than others. Somewhere in the middle of the bunch is the best one for everyone, no matter what their personal preferences are. We just don't know which one it is. And we don't allow ourselves to find out either. We don't put all the cards on the table, then have a debate that will flesh out every aspect of what the potential solutions may bring. We rather elect people who meet our personal expectations based on how we want to be seen, then they choose the solutions they think will best get us to vote for them next time. But what really happens is that solutions are offered by whoever gives them the most money. Then they come up with the best way to sell it to us, so we'll think we're getting the kind of leadership that inspired us to take the time to vote for them. For the sake of argument, let's say that our elected officials, liberals and conservatives, want to honestly support solutions that best represent what we want and need. Since they don't know what all the solutions may be, while the only ones they will see are the ones that have a lot of money behind them, either way, the best prospects likely won't see the light of day. I liken this syndrome to lessons learned when calling the FDA to find out why more research isn't being done into herbal and nutritional supplement cures for illness. The answer was quite simple, because they're safe to use and available without a prescription, where prescription drugs are dangerous and have to be vetted before hitting the market. But they aren't testing them to find out if they're safe. They know they're not safe. They test drugs to find the side effects so they can be printed on warning labels, therefore transferring responsibility for anything that goes wrong with taking them from the drug companies and government to you. So advocating safe and effective remedies is not what the FDA does, nor do they broadcast that their approving of a drug does not make it safe, but actually is a key sign that it's not safe. Otherwise, it wouldn't need their approval. The point is that anything good and effective doesn't need government support. Good ideas don't really even need Wall Street to get behind. A really good idea in theory should attract so much attention that it takes off being powered by its own merit. The problem is that the sky is so littered with bad ideas with big money behind them that nothing good gets noticed. It's an odd system. It doesn't work like that anywhere else in the real world. But when you mix Washington and Wall Street, backward seems to be the only direction they come up with for how to move forward into our future. So really what we have is a system that divides us along passive-aggressive lines, which with most of us is dictated by how we respond to our natural flight-or-fight tendencies. For some of us, our instincts instruct us to stay away from trouble, while others are best suited attacking problems head-on. Both play important balancing roles in society. But when it comes to politics, our leaders divide us along these same lines, then figure out how to sell us what Wall Street feels it can make the most money from, regardless of the consequences to the future of the country and the world. So there really isn't much of a pool of genuine solutions to the problems we face, just a bunch of wealthy bankers with an agenda they need government to support, or it would never get off the ground. We all want out of this system. We all want all the solutions put on the table and the best ones chosen so things work. Then we can decide whether we want the man in the moon to see us as more passive or aggressive. Out of this want and need for change comes a Tea Party movement, or what some call teabaggers, which I don't think Tea Partiers like, but they are the ones who started it by dumping tea bags into fountains around Washington, D.C. to be symbolic of the Boston Tea Party, therefore making a statement that they're fed up with the federal government trying to run our lives, which so is everyone else when this country and the world is falling apart. But then who is supposed to get it working in the right direction again if not the government? Wall Street doesn't want to lead. They don't need to. They have all the money. While the worse things get, the cheaper it is for them to buy our country out from underneath us, then hire us back at any wages they choose so we can pay it back to them in rent when we finally can afford to move out of homeless shelters and out from under the bridges into homes again. The United States is at a desperate impasse right now. There's not enough money on the streets to support the kind of success we're accustomed to, while we've become dependent on money in order to survive. There are only two places that can supply enough money to prime our economic engine and get it running again. One is the big banks who took all the money out of the economy and refused to put it back. The other is the federal government. Banks charge interest, government charges taxes. We have to get money from somewhere, because the money still in the system now is slowly finding its way to the IRS and back to the big banks, so there's not going to be any money left. Tea Partiers say we should get our money by borrowing it from banks. They're big on the idea of capitalism. Capitalism is not free market enterprise. It's where money is loaned or gambled into the economy to inspire growth, then has to be paid back with interest and or as profits or losses, so that those who lend it make more money, otherwise they would have no incentive to lend it. Tea Partiers consider themselves conservatives and believe our founding fathers were capitalists. But then that would suggest that they were big bankers, which they weren't. The people they fought the American Revolution against were big bankers who supported the King of England. Then once this ragtag team of guerrilla freedom fighters won control of our shores, these bankers had no choice but to deal with us directly instead of through the king. Or did they? If I compare what Tea Partiers say should be the principles that drive this country forward with history dating back to the Boston Tea Party, then I come awake thinking our forefathers saw freedom as the ability of wealthy people to invest their money behind the efforts of working class people and get richer. It suggests that in the spirit of free market capitalism, our wealthy forefathers, who weren't however wealthy, saw a tax on tea by the King of England as an affront to their ability to make profits. So they started a resistance movement and won, which meant they got to set up their own capitalist system that allowed them to keep profits made on the backs of working people that otherwise would have gone to the king. Then, to run the government, a tax was imposed on the working class. The average Tea Party or belief system may be more complex than that, but they claim they want conservative values applied to our government, while this is the kind of system they advocate for, one where the only money that enters into the economy is lent into it, then paid back with interest while being taxed as well. They say they want low taxes and small government, but they don't have a plan for how to pay for all the problems caused by there never being enough money in the economy for everyone to survive. So I assume they're not interested so much in freedom, including survival for the people that won't be able to have any money because there will never be enough of it to go around.